I will say 1,000 years ago, I was born in Los Angeles. I don't remember any of Los Angeles when I was a kid because the first home I found that I remember was a little farm community about 46 miles southwest of Wichita, Kansas. We thought we were in the Bible Belt. As we got a little older, we went into Oklahoma on a visit. They think they're in the Bible Belt. Texans think they're in the Bible Belt. Nebraska, South Dakota, everybody thinks they're in the Bible Belt. That's not true. The people in New York City and in California are not in the Bible Belt. And they know they're not. And I'm telling you, they are happy. But nobody knows exactly where the Bible Belt is, but I know that it buckles about 46 miles southwest of Wichita, Kansas, in this little town that I grew up in. And if I have ever grown up, I started out growing up in that little town. And it was a small little farm community, and the businessmen in the community would put on free movies on Friday night, maybe Saturday night, to attract the farmers into our town so they'd buy their groceries, get their hair cut and all that in our community. And at one of those free movies, I saw a travelogue movie entitled, I think, Training Wild Elephants in India. I know that was what it was about. They rounded up the wild elephants. They took the baby elephants out of the herd, and they started their training by putting a rope around their right front leg and then snubbing them up to a big tree. And the baby elephant fought and tugged and fought and tugged, tears running down its face, until it come to believe that when that rope's tight, it's futile to pull. Then they go on with the rest of the training, the trainer making sure that he reinforces that truth about when the rope's tight for the rest of the elephant's training. And at the end of the movie, there was this huge elephant. They'd cut down a tree, cut the limbs off the tree, hook that tree onto the elephant's harness, and he would drag it out of the forest for harvest. And at lunch, in order to hold the big elephant where they wanted it, they put a rope around his right front leg. They drove a stake deep enough in the ground that when they put the other end of the rope around that stake, and the elephant could walk around, he would, but when the rope got tight on his right leg, he couldn't pull. Now, the stake didn't hold the elephant. The rope didn't hold the elephant. What held the elephant was the limiting belief they had imposed on him when he was a baby. I came to AA, I heard this great speaker, Don Gates, and he was talking about why he was a Republican or a Democrat. I don't remember which one he was. But he articulately and succinctly described the elements of being a good Republican or Democrat. And then he said, but the real reason I'm a Democrat is because my dad was a Democrat. I know that. And on the way home, I remembered the baby elephant. And I realized I have a whole lifetime full of baby elephant beliefs. Stuff that I don't even know I know. But it's stuff that has to be true if I'm going to have a sense of well-being or feel good about myself and my life. One of the baby elephant beliefs, which did not help me, was that I'm separate from God. In the church I went to, they talked about God being up in heaven behind the pearly gates on the streets of gold. Now, you don't have to tell me you're separate from God. Later, they did tell me that. But if they would have said God was in Kansas City, then I know I'm separate from him because he's up in Kansas City. And that was, and then later they told the Adam and Eve story and how I am separate from God. And God, I'll tell you, I felt it. I felt the separation. That become a fundamental baby elephant belief of mine. And also, they told us how to pray. When we're in trouble, we can beseech God in prayer. And if we behave the way we're supposed to behave, then God will answer the prayer and you can go on with your life. Well, the first time I remember praying and knowing who I was praying to and what I was praying for, it was Sunday morning. Wheat harvest would start Monday, but never Sunday in my church. And we fervently and sincerely prayed for God to not let it rain until after wheat harvest. And the farmers had brought the crops in. I mean, wheat was our breadbasket. And it rained that day. It hailed that day. The wind blew that day and ruined all the wheat in Sumner County, Kansas. And while nobody pointed their finger at me, I knew whose fault it was. Now, I had been taught from as early as I can remember that I need to be an individual achiever. And it was up to me. And somehow I had dropped the ball with God. And it had rained and destroyed the wheat crop. Now, if you're 4 or 5 years old and you've assumed the entire responsibility for wiping out the Kansas wheat crop, what you have is an ego problem. The old ego, assuming responsibility for getting things done so that you'll have a sense of well-being, which you lack the power to do.